I've used OM System OM-1 camera for 2 months now. It's the only camera that I use since I got one. The first one I used was a loaner from OMDS, and then I got 2 of my own cameras a couple of weeks after that. I've been using it for travel, everyday photography, just for fun, and also for my professional work. And this video is about my experience that I've had it for these 2 months. What a good, and are there something that I wish was different? But let's start. There are quite a lot of new things in OM-1, and here's a video that I made after a couple of days of using it. There are 20 things that I found new in this camera. So there's quite a lot to learn when you start using a new camera, even though it's not that much different from the previous EM1 cameras. You could say that same but different. Handling of the camera is very familiar to EM1 Mark III and Mark II. The grip on this one is a bit bigger, and I've liked it a lot, and it really feels good in my hand. And it's slightly feels better, and of course the cover of the battery compartment is a bit different, so the feel is a lot nicer. And I've got 2 accessories for this one. The other one is the battery grip, and then I have the remote controller, the wireless Bluetooth remote controller. And I do have a video about it over there if you want to watch that, and if that's something that you might be interested in. The battery grip is for those longer portrait sessions where I want to keep the camera like this. Normally when I go out and shoot, I don't use it because having or making a few shots like this is not a problem. But of course, if you have to hold it like this all day, then it's a bit of a problem. This way is a lot easier, and that's why I got it. And of course, it has an extra battery. Even though the battery life has been totally fine, it's actually better than the previous models, so there has been no problems with that. The only small downside in usability, or not usability, it's more about handling, is the back wheel, which is a bit more inside the body than it used to be. And the same thing here. If you're using EM1X, then you know this very well. But if you have using the EM1 Mark II or III, then this is a bit of a different place, this front wheel and the back wheel. The front wheel isn't that a big of a problem because I use the back wheel a lot more. I have set exposure compensation to the back wheel, which I use on every single photograph that I make. So that's really important. And it, is a bit harder to use if you have gloves on. It's spring now, so we don't need gloves, even though I need the jacket. It's a bit cold still here. But with, like this, it's something to get used to. It's not a big problem. But of course, when you have a new body, it is something that you need to consider, or practice is maybe the right word. Hi, it's Peter here, and before we continue, why don't you hit that like button if you have liked the content so far that you have heard on this video. It means a lot to me if you hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. There's a lot more videos to come, and if you don't want to miss them, hitting that notification bell will get you a notification when there is a new video online. I usually make 2 videos a week, sometimes even 3, and it's all about photography and you getting to be a better photographer, and of course about Olympus/OM system gear. But let's continue with the topic of today's video. OM system changed the menu system for this camera, and it's so much easier to use, a lot more intuitive, and it looks better, if that's something that matters at all. Maybe not. And also the customizability has been improved. Now you can set special features like high-res shot, handheld high-res shot to a button, and it's pre-programmed to this button. And of course you can set it to any other button if you like. They're all customizable, and that's one great thing. And also the settings that I've set, I can use them in both of my OM-1 cameras. Yes, I got 2 of them, and I will tell you why I got 2 later in this video. And the settings can be transferred from camera to another via computer or mobile phone using the OM Image Share app. And that's something that I've done. Of course, having both cameras exactly set up the same way is one big thing. Now let me see, what else did I wrote down about the usability. Yeah, there's one thing about the settings. If you are interested in getting the settings that I use, there's a link in the description where you can purchase with a small fee the settings that you can transfer to your own camera, to your own OM-1. If that's something that you need, go down to the description and click the link after you have watched this video. It's very useful, but of course you can set them, for yourself, by yourself, because it is important to know the camera. But if you want to make it a bit faster, check that option out. But let's continue with the next thing. Handling and usability is most likely the most important thing in a camera, because if those two things doesn't work, if it's not that easy to handle or it's not enjoyable to use, who cares about the other features? It doesn't matter at all. So that's why, at least for me, usability and handling is the most important thing. What do you think? What is the most important thing for you in a camera? What is the first thing you look when you considering getting a new camera? Please let us know in the comments down below. It's really interesting to hear. What about the image quality? When this camera was launched, OM System claimed that it has 2 stops better noise performance and 1 stop more dynamic range. And I have a video where I explain all that because it's a bit complicated. Watch that video after this if you are interested in hearing and learning about the image quality a bit more. The thing is that I know that I can pull up the shadows a bit more from this without the image breaking into part. And that's something that I really enjoy this, because of course dynamic range is something that we need and want sometimes when you want to lift up those shadows if they get too dark. If you have a really contrasty scene, it's a good feature, if that's called a feature, to have. And of course that is something that I value quite a lot, as I said. But other than that, I haven't seen really any significant image quality improvement other than what I already mentioned. And that's not a problem, because the image quality with the OM-1 Mark III and OM-1 Mark II are totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And it depends on what you're shooting, how much that image quality means, because at least what I know, most, if not all, new cameras have image quality that is good enough for most of us. And someone also said that increasing the megapixel amount, it would be a bit better quality. But like I said, I'm totally fine with 20. Could it be 24? Yes, why not? Of course, more is better than less. But I think 20 is enough for most of us, at least for me. I don't know. What do you think? I know many of you might think that should be 24 or even 26. Please let us know in the comments down below. What do you think? And before we talk about the AF, which has been another topic in the forums and YouTube, how good the AF is, I will talk a little bit about the video qualities. That has been improved quite a bit. There are a lot of new things in video. And the biggest thing, I think, is the 8265 codec, which means that you can record 10-bit, which is a lot more than 8-bit. And that is something that we need when we are grading the footage. Having a 10-bit image is a lot better if you do some grading versus 8-bit image or 8-bit video. And that's a huge thing. And then of course 4K and Cinema 4K with 60 frames per second helps a lot with the B-roll. If there are a lot of moving things, you can make the motion a lot smoother and the image looks a lot better, or the video looks a lot better and more pleasing to watch. And then probably the biggest thing for me when I'm filming like this are the zebras. It's like the blinkies or the flag colors for still images. And then let's talk about the AF, which has been also quite a big topic online. Some people have found it that, for example, the face tracking doesn't work really well. And yes, I did have some troubles at the beginning, especially when using ND filters. And that's probably because there's less light going through. But the solution for this whole problem is to choose the focusing area, the whole area, then it will work a lot better. If you choose just one small point and the face, for example, is not on that, it might not find it. At least that's my experience. And then you need to use CAF. And this is a bit different from previous models. I don't know why it has changed a bit. And that, of course, has been the confusion. If you do this properly, like I told, then it should be okay. At least that has worked for me. The same goes when I'm doing video. It works quite well because I want to, or not want, but I need it to be really reliable when I'm talking like this to camera, so that the focus is spot on. I don't always want to carry a big monitor on top of the camera. I want to use the small one. It's just more convenient. Of course, a bigger monitor would be better for monitoring the focus, but I'm concentrating on talking to you, so that's not an option. And then the AF points, how to choose them or what to use is a bit different. If you have the small point, it's like the other cameras, it's no problem. But if you make the area a little bigger, it will choose the small point in that area, and that sometimes might be not the best solution. I think it works a bit differently in different cameras. And of course, it's not a problem when you get used to it, but at the beginning, it was a bit of a problem. But I haven't really had any issues that I've missed any shots or anything like that, so it hasn't been that bad for me. Then the subject tracking, I haven't tested that much that I could say that if it's better or not. The few shots that I took when the camera was, or I had it for the first time, of course I wanted to test that because that's something that this camera is used a lot for, bird photography for example. And that's something I will test a bit more. I've ordered or bought the 100 to 400 millimeter just for leisure photography, for birds and wildlife or whatever I can find and use a long telephoto lens for. So then I will test the subject recognition a lot more. But let's continue with other topics. The reason that I got two of these is that I was using OM-1 Mark II and OM-1 Mark III for my professional work, for everything that I do. And nothing wrong with both of these cameras or both of those cameras. They are totally fine still. And if I wasn't doing professional photography, I probably would not have upgraded, because OM-1 Mark II is totally fine for me, and the OM-1 Mark III also. The reason that I got two is that now I can set up the cameras to be exactly the same. I have the same settings, everything is kind of like the same settings and equal. So it doesn't matter which one I pick, I know which button does, and also the C modes are programmed to the same way. And like I was talking about it earlier, that I can set them up from my computer or from my mobile, so that if I change something on the other one, I can store it to my mobile phone, for example, and then transfer it to the other body. And like I said, nothing wrong with the older models. They're totally fine, and I still will be using it for both of those cameras for my leisure photography, just for fun. But now I have two identical cameras, which makes professional work when I need two cameras a lot easier. That's the reason. All in all, I think OM system or OMDS has gone to the right direction with this camera. There are a lot of good features, and like I said before, I have a big faith that they are continuing making new excellent cameras. What the next one will be, I have no idea, but I hope they will soon make a new launch of a new camera. And these two bodies will probably be my main cameras for 3 to 4 years. Yes, there might be a newer one, but of course it depends when they upgrade this one, if I'm going to use it or not. It depends, of course, on the features and if I need it and what the prices are and all that. Like I said, please let us know in the comments down below, what are your thoughts on this. And here is the video that I was talking about, where I talked about the 20 great things that I've found on this OM-1 camera. But hey, thanks for watching, and bye for now.